On the topic of healthcare, work requirements for public assistance programs is a growing trend under the Trump administration, and Governor Sununu and New Hampshire Republicans made work requirements a condition of the Medicaid reauthorization bill passed this spring in New Hampshire. Do you support including work requirements in Medicaid expansion and other public benefit programs? And what ideas do you have to ensure everyone in New Hampshire has access to quality, affordable health care?
So, two-part question. First of all, in terms of the work requirement, I do not favor that. And good news, I may not be an attorney, but there are some good attorneys working on it. There are states around the country just in the last 48 hours that have said that the work requirement is not legal. And so we need to keep pushing on that. It's not right. And you know what? It's not just the policy. There's an implication behind it, if we're being honest. The implication is that people that are in need are in that condition because they are somehow lazy, they do not seek to work. I grew up in a community with a lot of people with a motor that didn't stop. Their work ethic was unbelievable, and that's not enough. Sometimes things don't go the right way. Sometimes a medical emergency doesn't go your way. And so it means that we should not have a work requirement, and luckily, in a growing number of states, I think we're going to find, the law says it too, and that is a welcome that's some welcome news. In terms of healthcare, again, as I said earlier, I can't wait for the federal government to get on it. Because as long as Donald Trump is president, even with a Democratic Congress and Senate, you know he's not going to be terribly interested in progressive policy on healthcare. And so I look at different models around the state and around the world. When I look at something like Singapore, which says universal healthcare for preventative, universal healthcare for catastrophic, and a health savings account in between. Well, we all know the problem with an HSA is the S. It's the savings. If you don't have it, an HSA doesn't do squat for you. And so what they do, which is interesting, would need to be modified, but could be done, I think, even at a relatively small state scale, would be to means testing. And as you have the resources, there's nothing in it. And as you go down on the income level, it's filled to the point where at the lower income, it's 100% full. In other words, $1 public health coverage. We're going to have to get very creative because I fear that at the national level, they have zero intellectual curiosity to do anything on this at all.
I'll restate the question. Do you support including work requirements in Medicaid expansion and other public benefit programs? And what ideas do you have to ensure every Green Stater has access to quality, affordable health care?
Yes, thank you. First, I just want to say I think everyone has the right to health care. That's the bottom line. I was in the Senate, as I said, 10 years. I voted for Medicaid expansion every single time that I had the opportunity to do that. And I also voted against the work requirement. So I'm on record. It's not just thinking about it. It's not an idea. I've done it, and I know that we can. That it's important to have had that experience to sit there and to do that. I also want to say that I would work with our federal delegation, in particular, U.S. Senator Jeanne Shaheen, who has also supported Medicare, universal Medicare, and to work together so that we can move this forward on a federal level. But I am very, very open to working regionally so that we can start to implement this policy as well. It is important. Everyone has the right to health care, and we will move from there. Thank you.
On the topic of public education, what initiatives would you promote to ensure every school district in New Hampshire has access to quality education that is fairly funded? And what other ideas do you have to improve our public education system in New Hampshire?
If it was not for Gosler Park Elementary School on the west side of Manchester in Ward 11, I don't have any chance of being here today. And that is an innovation that we take for granted. America's understanding of free public education. We think of innovation as technology, but that may be among, if not the greatest American innovation. And it is what we need to protect if we are going to be true to what we're supposed to be about. Equal opportunity for all. It's ultimately about access to quality public education. It also is the number one thing I kept hearing from businesses when I directed corporate relations at UNH. If you don't have outstanding, what I want is pre-K through 12 public education in your community, it is hard to attract the talent that right now is figuring out if they're going to stay in New Hampshire or come to New Hampshire and where they're going to plant their flag for a generation. This is a seminal economic issue every bit as it is a moral and equality-based issue. So, we need more money. We need a greater percentage of education to be paid for by the state as compared to local government, as I've mentioned a few times already. If you were around in the early 90s, Claremont lawsuit, we lost that lawsuit because the inequity between property poor and property wealthy communities was great, and we lost the lawsuit, and we should have. I got news for you. We're going to get sued again. We will lose the lawsuit again because the inequality between the Claremonts and the Bedfords, between the Berlins and the Portsmouths, is greater now than it was at the time of the lawsuit last time. We need to get ahead of it by beginning to increase the state contribution. If you think $3,600 a kid is enough to provide adequate education, standalone, for your kids and grandkids, you haven't been in a school like I have with my 10th and 8th grade daughters in Portsmouth Public Schools. We need to increase starting teacher pay. That is the bullseye issue that does the most to increase outcomes. I want to stop being one of 6 states without pre-K. And I mentioned in higher ed, I've got a debt-free plan on my website that we can afford and expand to make us a leader in the country in that regard.